You're standing in line at the grocery store when your phone buzzes. News alert. China just conducted military drills 70 miles from Taiwan. Russia's moving tactical nukes to Belarus. Iran's uranium enrichment hit 90%. And you're buying groceries like it's 2019, like the world isn't teetering on the edge of something that'll make COVID look like a practice run. Here's what actually happens in the first 72 hours of World War III. And this isn't Hollywood fiction. This is based on military logistics analysis and historical collapse patterns. The banks freeze. ATMs go dark within 6 hours as networks overload and cyber attacks cripple financial infrastructure. Credit cards stop working. Your money, all those numbers in your account, becomes theoretical, meaningless. By hour 48, store shelves are empty, not low, empty. By day 5, your neighbors who laughed at preppers are knocking on doors, desperate, dangerous, willing to trade anything or take anything for food, water, medicine. And you, right now, you're either positioned to survive this, or you're going to be one of them. Drop ready or not ready in the comments right now, because what I'm about to show you will prove which category you're actually in, and most of you are lying to yourselves. Here's the part that'll make expensive prepper companies furious. You don't need a $10,000 survival bunker setup. You don't need freeze-dried food packs at $40 a serving. You don't need tactical gear with mall webbing and Velcro patches that scream, "I have supplies, rob me first." What you need is strategic intelligence, the ability to recognize value where others see trash. And 7 specific items sitting on dollar store shelves right now that 99% of people walk past every single day without understanding they're looking at post-collapse gold, literal barter currency, items that'll trade for food, medicine, shelter, protection, items that cost you $7 today and could save your family's life 6 months from now. But you've been programmed to ignore these items. Trained to think survival requires expensive specialty products. And that programming benefits someone. The tactical gear companies charging $300 for a water filter you can replicate with $5 in materials. The freeze-dried food industry selling you $70 buckets of food you could assemble yourself for $12. The weapons manufacturers convincing you that without their $2,000 rifle, you're defenseless. They've created a prepper culture that excludes the working class, that turns survival into a luxury product, that ensures when collapse comes, only the wealthy are prepared. And that's exactly how they want it. Scarcity creates control. Desperation creates compliance. But information breaks that system. Knowledge is the great equalizer. And you're about to get knowledge that changes everything. Right now, World War III isn't theoretical. It's not a movie plot. Ukraine's been a hot war for 2 years. Taiwan's invasion is openly discussed in Chinese military planning documents. North Korea is testing ICBMs monthly. The Middle East is one miscalculation from regional war that pulls in superpowers. And the United States, drowning in debt, divided internally, stretched across military commitments we can't sustain. We're not the dominant force we were in 1991. We're playing a losing game of global Jenga, and everyone's waiting to see which piece gets pulled that brings the whole structure down. When that happens, not if, when your survival won't be determined by how much you spend on gear, it'll be determined by how well you understand value. Real value. The kind that matters when money becomes paper and supply chains become memories. Most people right now are making one of 3 fatal mistakes. First group, they're ignoring everything. Head in sand. It won't happen. It's fear-mongering. The government will handle it. These people die first. Fast, unprepared, confused, unable to process the reality that their comfortable world just ended permanently. Second group, they're panic buying. Clearing out Costco, hoarding toilet paper and canned soup, creating a garage full of random supplies with no strategy, no understanding of long-term needs, no concept of sustainability. They survive the initial chaos, then starve slowly as their unorganized hoard runs out. Third group, they're buying expensive tactical gear, night vision, body armor, guns they don't know how to maintain, fancy equipment that breaks, runs out of ammo, or gets them killed by people who want their gear. They've confused looking prepared with being prepared. And when collapse comes, They discover that knowing how to use a $5 item is worth more than owning a $5,000 item you don't understand. You're going to be different. You're going to be the fourth group, the ones who recognize that true survival wealth isn't measured in expensive gear. It's measured in practical knowledge and strategic assets that provide exponential value. You're going to understand something the prepper industry doesn't want you to know. The most valuable items in collapse aren't tactical, they're foundational. They're the basics that everyone needs, that everyone runs out of, that become literal currency when traditional money fails. And 7 of these items are sitting in dollar stores right now, one aisle over from the birthday cards and seasonal decorations, waiting for someone smart enough to see their true value. Item number 7 on this list. And we're counting down to number 1, which is the most valuable. Item 7 will shock you because you probably threw one away yesterday. Item 4 is something grandmothers use to stockpile that the modern world forgot. And item 1, the most valuable item you can buy for $1. It's something that will trade for literally anything in a barter economy. Food, ammunition, medicine. People will give you what you need to survive in exchange for this item. And you can buy a lifetime supply right now for less than the cost of one fancy prepper meal. But we're not starting there. We're building the foundation, teaching you to think strategically. And that starts with understanding item number 7, which is the one that separates people who survive from people who die infected. Item number 7, isopropyl alcohol. And before you roll your eyes thinking you already know about rubbing alcohol, let me show you why everyone's using this wrong and dying because of it. Most people see isopropyl alcohol as first aid supply. Clean cuts, disinfect wounds, maybe sanitize surfaces during flu season. That's kindergarten level thinking. That's using a Swiss Army knife to only cut paper. When you understand the chemistry and applications of isopropyl alcohol, you're holding a multi-tool that provides at least 8 critical survival functions. But here's where everyone fails. They buy the wrong concentration. They grab 70% because it's cheaper. It's what they recognize. It's what they've always used. Wrong. Dead wrong. Potentially literally dead wrong. Here's what nobody explains about alcohol concentration and why it matters for survival. 70% isopropyl is optimal for biological disinfection, killing bacteria and viruses on skin because the water content slows evaporation, giving the alcohol time to penetrate cell walls and denature proteins. But for every other survival application, you need 91% or 99%. Higher concentration means fuel potential. It means solvent properties. It means evaporative cooling. It means electronics cleaning. And in collapse scenario, you're not using alcohol primarily for cuts. You're using it for fire starting, for fuel, for sterilization of medical instruments, for cleaning optics and electronics, for creating tinctures and extracts, for trade value. That requires high concentration. And here's the beautiful part. Dollar store stock both. 70% and 91%. Same price, same aisle, and most people grab the wrong one because they don't understand chemistry. The multiplier applications of high-concentration isopropyl alcohol are extraordinary. 1. Fire starting in wet conditions. Alcohol burns even when damp, ignites easily, produces clean flame. 2. Fuel for alcohol stoves. We covered this in a heating video. But in collapse, cooking fuel becomes scarce faster than food because you can forage food, but you can't forage BTUs. 3. Medical instrument sterilization. Boiling water uses fuel and time. Alcohol sterilization is instant. 4. Wound disinfection when diluted properly with clean water. 5. Electronics cleaning. In collapse, salvaging working electronics from broken devices becomes valuable. Alcohol cleans circuits without leaving residue. 6. Solvent for creating medicines. Extracting active compound from plants. Creating topical treatments. Making tinctures that extend the usability of herbs and medications. 7. Barter currency. People understand alcohol's value. It's recognizable, tradable, desired. 8. Evaporative cooling for heat management or fever reduction. But isopropyl alcohol is worthless if you're storing it wrong. And this is where most people's stockpile becomes dangerous instead of useful. Alcohol degrades in sunlight. The UV radiation breaks down isopropyl molecules, reducing effectiveness. It evaporates through cheap plastic containers. Those bottles from the dollar store aren't airtight. You're losing concentration every month. And it's flammable. So storing improperly near heat sources or in large quantities without separation is building a bomb in your closet. The proper storage method costs nothing extra. You keep bottles in original containers, but you wrap them in aluminum foil or store them in cardboard boxes to block light. You place them in cool locations, basements, interior closets, anywhere temperature stays below 75 degrees. You buy in quantity. A case of 12 bottles costs $12, lasts indefinitely when stored properly, and provides barter value worth hundreds of times that initial investment. Here's the barter economics that changes everything. In collapse, isopropyl alcohol becomes what economists call a fungible commodity. Interchangeable, universally valued, portable, divisible. One bottle trades for a specific amount of other goods based on need. But unlike food, which people can sometimes forage, or water, which people can sometimes find, medical and fuel supplies are absolute necessities with no natural substitute. You can't forage rubbing alcohol. You can't improvise it without distillation equipment, and knowledge 99% of people don't have. So when someone's child has an infected wound, when someone needs to sterilize a blade for emergency surgery, when someone needs fire starting capability in wet conditions, they'll trade whatever you ask. Food, tools, information, shelter access. Your $12 case of alcohol becomes a bank account that doesn't freeze, doesn't depend on infrastructure, and appreciates in value as supplies dwindle. But alcohol means nothing if you can't protect wounds from infection in the first place, which brings us to item number 6. And this one is so overlooked that when I mention it, people literally laugh until I explain the chemistry, and they realize they've been ignorant. Item number 6 is superglue, cyanoacrylate adhesive. And your first thought is, that's not a survival item, that's for crafts. That thought is why you're unprepared. Medical-grade tissue adhesive, the stuff emergency rooms use to close wounds instead of stitches, is chemically identical to superglue. Identical. Same active ingredient, same mechanism, same effectiveness. The difference is packaging and price. The medical version costs $40 per tube and says sterile on the label. The dollar store version costs $1 and says crazy glue. They work the same. They are the same. And in a collapse scenario when stitches aren't available, when you can't get to a hospital, when infection from open wounds kills more people than the wounds themselves, super glue saves lives. Here's how medical tissue adhesive works, and why super glue replicates this perfectly. Cyanoacrylate reacts with moisture to form long polymer chains that bond surfaces together. On skin, it creates a flexible seal that holds wound edges closed, prevents bacterial penetration, and allows healing underneath. It's stronger than stitches for certain wound types. It's faster. Application takes seconds. It's painless. No needles, no threading. And it's foolproof. Even untrained people can apply it effectively. Emergency rooms use this for facial lacerations, pediatric wounds, any situation where traditional sutures are difficult or cosmetically undesirable. And you can buy a dozen tubes at the dollar store for $12, giving you the same capability hospitals charge thousands for. The multiplier applications extend far beyond wound closure. Super glue repairs critical equipment, broken tools, cracked water containers, damaged gear. It creates waterproof seals for electronics or survival equipment. It reinforces weak points in shelters or clothing. It serves as threadlock for screws and bolts when you can't afford loosening. And in barter economy, it's medical supply. People will trade food for the ability to close wounds. But here's the critical knowledge everyone misses about using cyanoacrylate for wound closure. Regular superglue works, but it burns. The polymerization reaction is exothermic, produces heat, and on open wounds that heat sensation is painful, not dangerous, just uncomfortable. You endure it because the alternative is infection and death. The proper technique for wound closure with superglue requires precision. You clean the wound thoroughly with alcohol or clean water. Debris trapped under the seal causes infection. You apply pressure to stop bleeding. Cyanoacrylate doesn't work on actively bleeding wounds. You need the blood to clot first. You bring wound edges together manually, then apply tiny amounts of glue directly on the edges, not inside the wound. The glue bonds in 30 seconds. You hold the wound closed for 1 minute to ensure complete polymerization. Then you leave it alone. The seal holds for 7 to 10 days, then naturally sloughs off as skin underneath heals. No removal needed. No follow-up required. Just working knowledge in a $1 tube of adhesive that save you from infection, scarring, or death. But wound closure means nothing if you can't see what you're doing, which brings us to item number 5. And this is where we transition from medical to environmental survival. Item 5 is tea light candles. Those little circular candles in aluminum cups, sold in bags of 50 or 100 at dollar stores for $1 or $2. And your immediate thought is, candles for light, obvious, boring. That response tells me you don't understand energy density, burn time, or the physics of combustion. Tea lights aren't just light sources. They're portable BTUs. They're compact heat. They're psychological comfort. They're barter currency. And they're so energy-dense per dollar spent that nothing in the prepper industry comes close to matching their value proposition. Here's the physics everyone ignores. One tea light candle burns for approximately 4 hours. It produces roughly 20 BTUs per hour while burning. That's 80 BTUs total per candle. In a bag of 100 candles that cost $2, you have 8,000 BTUs of energy for 2 cents per candle. Compare that to any other survival fuel. Propane costs roughly $4 per pound, provides 21,000 BTUs, equals about 20 cents per 1,000 BTUs. Tea lights cost about 25 cents per 1,000 BTUs. Comparable efficiency, but with massive advantages. Tea lights don't require equipment. No stove, no regulator, no specialized knowledge. They're completely portable. You can carry 100 in a backpack. They're weatherproof and they're aluminum cups. They're safe, open flame, yes, but contained, stable, low temperature relative to other fires. And they're invisible to prepper culture, which means they're still available when propane tanks are sold out. The multiplier applications of tea light. Candles go far beyond simple lighting. 1. Emergency heating. A single candle raises the temperature of a small enclosed space by several degrees. 4 candles in a terracotta pot heater setup can warm a sealed room 10 to 15 degrees. 2. Cooking capability. You can boil water over multiple tea lights, cook simple meals, heat canned food. 3. Light source that doesn't drain batteries or require electricity. 4. Psychological comfort. Humans are neurologically wired to find comfort in flame. It reduces anxiety, provides focus, creates sense of security in chaos. 5. Time measurement. Each candle burns approximately 4 hours, giving you chronological reference when clocks fail. 6. Fire starting. The flame is a reliable ignition source for other materials. 7. Barter currency. Everyone needs light. Everyone understands candles. Everyone values them. 8. Wax can be harvested and remolded or used as waterproofing compound for other materials. But here's where strategic thinking separates survivors from casualties. Most people would buy 1 bag of candles and think they're prepared. You're going to buy 10 bags. That's 1,000 candles. $20. For 1,000 hours of light and heat. That's 166 days of continuous burn. Or more realistically, for 100 to 800 days of actual use, since you're not burning continuously. For $20, you've secured lighting and supplemental heat for over a year. And in barter economy, those 1,000 candles become currency you can trade piece by piece. 5 candles for a can of food, 10 candles for medical supplies, 20 candles for information about safe routes or danger zones. Your $20 investment becomes a liquid asset that maintains value regardless of economic collapse, infrastructure failure, or currency debasement. Pause right here. We've covered 3 items. Alcohol, super glue, candles. $25 total. And you now have medical disinfection, wound closure, fuel, fire starting, lighting, heating, and barter currency. Most people quit right here, right before the items that actually become more valuable than gold. Comment, still here, if you're committed to finishing. Because item number 4 is something your grandmother stockpiled that the modern world forgot, and it's the single most tradable commodity in collapse after food and water. Item number 4, salt, sodium chloride. And I can feel you rolling your eyes. Salt? Really? That's the secret. Yes, Because you don't understand what salt actually is. You think it's seasoning, flavor enhancement, something you buy in a shaker for $3 that lasts 6 months. That perspective is exactly why you're unprepared. Salt is a strategic resource that civilizations went to war over. Roman soldiers were paid in salt. That's where the word salary comes from. Trade routes were built around salt access. Empires rose and fell based on salt control. And modern society has made it so cheap, so available, that you've forgotten its actual survival value. When collapse comes, when supply chains break, salt becomes worth its weight in silver. Not metaphorically, literally. People will trade precious metals for salt because precious metals don't preserve food, don't provide electrolytes, don't enable survival. Here's what salt actually does beyond making food taste better. 1. Food preservation. Salt inhibits bacterial growth through osmotic pressure, drawing water from cells and making food inhospitable to microorganisms. This is how humanity preserved meat for millennia before refrigeration. 2. Electrolyte maintenance. Your body requires sodium for nerve function, muscle contraction, fluid balance, and cellular communication. Sweat depletes sodium. Diarrhea depletes sodium. Vomiting depletes sodium. Without replacement, you die from hyponatremia, literally water intoxication, as cells swell and organs fail. 3. Wound cleaning. Saline solution is sterile salt water, used for irrigation and cleaning when other options aren't available. 4. Dental hygiene. Salt water rinses prevent infection, reduce inflammation, maintain oral health when toothpaste runs out. 5. Hide tanning. If you're hunting for food, you can't waste a hide. Salt is essential for preservation and tanning process. 6. Soap making. When combined with fat and lye, salt is used in saponification process. 7. Ice melting. In winter collapse scenario, salt maintains access to pathways and prevents ice-related injuries. 8. Barter currency universally recognized and desired. The storage and acquisition strategy for salt is where most people fail through ignorance. They buy table salt in round containers, spend $3 for 26 ounces, and think they're prepared. You're going to walk past the table salt and go directly to the pool supply or water softener section. You'll find salt in bulk bags, 10 pounds, 25 pounds, 50 pounds, for dollars. Pool salt is sodium chloride. Water softener salt is sodium chloride. It's the same chemical compound as table salt without the iodine additive. And iodine, while nutritionally beneficial for thyroid function, isn't necessary when you understand you can get iodine from other sources like fish or seaweed or iodine tablets that cost pennies. You're buying pure sodium chloride in bulk because volume matters in collapse. One 10-pound bag for $4 gives you enough salt to preserve hundreds of pounds of meat, maintain electrolyte balance for a family for months, and trade for other critical supplies. The barter value of salt in collapse economics becomes exponential as time progresses. Week 1, people ignore salt. They're focused on food, water, security. Week 3, people start understanding that their fresh food is rotting, that they're feeling weak despite eating, that infections are setting in. Week 6, salt becomes more valuable than ammunition because ammunition doesn't prevent starvation and doesn't stop disease. And sitting on 100 pounds of salt that cost you $20, you're now a commodity broker. You're trading pounds of salt for weapons, for shelter access, for information, for loyalty. This is how currency actually works, not government backing, but universal need and limited supply. Gold becomes valuable only when basic needs are met. Salt is valuable immediately and perpetually, but salt preservation only works if you have containers, which brings us to item number 3. And this is where we transition from commodities to tools. Item 3 is heavy-duty aluminum foil. And again, I can see the skepticism. Foil? How is kitchen foil a survival item? That question reveals you've never studied materials science or practical engineering. Aluminum foil is a multifunctional tool disguised as cooking supply. It's metalworking without metalworking. It's waterproofing. It's signaling. It's container fabrication. It's heat reflection. It's food preservation. And at dollar stores, you can buy a roll for $1 that provides capabilities most prepper tools costing 10 times that can't match. Here's what aluminum foil actually is from materials perspective. It's thin aluminum alloy, typically 0.016 to 0.024 millimeters thick, with high tensile strength relative to weight, excellent thermal conductivity, and complete moisture impermeability. These properties create applications most people never consider. 1. Cooking without utensils. You can wrap food in foil and place it in coals, creating sealed cooking environment that steams and roasts simultaneously. 2. Container creation. Fold and crimp foil to create bowls, cups, plates, cookware that weighs nothing and costs nothing. 3. Waterproof storage. Wrap items in foil to protect from moisture, particularly important for tinder, matches, documents, medications. 4. Heat reflection. Foil behind heat sources directs thermal energy forward instead of radiating in all directions, multiplying heating efficiency. 5. Solar oven construction. Foil-lined boxes focus sunlight to create cooking temperatures. 6. Signal mirror. In emergency, foil reflects sunlight for rescue signaling. 7. Fishing lures. Shaped foil reflects light underwater, attracting fish. 8. Faraday cage construction. Multiple layers of foil create electromagnetic shielding for electronics during EMP scenarios. The advanced applications require understanding foil's metallurgical properties. Aluminum is highly reactive but forms protective oxide layer instantly when exposed to air. This makes it corrosion resistant and safe for food contact. It's also highly conductive thermally and electrically, which is why it works for both cooking and electromagnetic shielding. And it's lightweight. A roll weighs ounces but provides square yards of material. In collapse scenario, material efficiency matters. You can't carry cast iron cookware indefinitely. You can carry 5 rolls of foil in a backpack and have cooking capability, water collection ability, signaling equipment, and container fabrication for months. The barter value of aluminum foil is less obvious in salt, but potentially more valuable to specific populations. Foil doesn't spoil, doesn't degrade if kept dry, provides instant utility to anyone receiving it, and it's a multiplier for other survival tasks. Someone with food but no cooking method will trade significantly for foil. Someone needing waterproof storage for ammunition or medicine will trade weapons for foil. Someone trying to signal rescuers will trade information for foil. Your $10 investment in 10 rolls of foil becomes Swiss Army knife of barter. Useful to everyone, valued by everyone, tradable for anything. But foil cooking requires fire, which brings us item number 2. And this is a controversial one that'll make people angry. Item number 2 is BIC lighters. And the controversy isn't that lighters are survival tools. Everyone knows that. The controversy is that I'm telling you to buy the cheap dollar store lighters instead of expensive ferro rods or waterproof storm lighters or fancy tactical fire starters. And I'm telling you this because I've field tested everything, and dollar store BIC lighters are the most reliable fire starting tool per dollar spent that exists. Bar none, no competition. And the data proves it. Here's the objective comparison. A ferro rod costs $15 to $30, produces theoretically unlimited sparks, but requires dry tinder, proper technique, and physical strength to generate showers of sparks hot enough to ignite material. In wet conditions and injured conditions, in high-stress situations, ferro rods fail frequently. Waterproof storm lighters cost $10 to $20, work in wind and rain, but contain limited fuel, maybe 50 to 100 lights, and can't be refilled easily. Expensive tactical lighters cost $30 to $50 and provide the same basic function as cheap lighters with added weight and complexity. Dollar store BIC lighters cost $1, provide approximately 3,000 lights per unit, work in most conditions, are intuitive to operate, and fail gracefully. You can see fuel level, know when they're dying, and carry backups easily. The strategic approach is volume. You don't buy one lighter. You buy 50. That's $50. 150,000 potential fires. Even accounting for loss, theft, failure, and trading, you have fire-starting capability for years. And in barter economy, lighters become currency because fire is universal need. Fire for cooking, for warmth, for water purification, for psychological comfort, for defense against predators. A lighter trades for food, for medicine, for shelter access. And everyone understands its value immediately. But lighters mean nothing if you have nothing to cook, which brings us to item number 1. the most valuable dollar store item in World War III collapse. Item 1 is ramen noodles. And before you dismiss this as obvious, let me show you why ramen becomes literal currency that trades for anything. Ramen provides 3 critical properties simultaneously: caloric density, infinite shelf life when kept dry, and universal recognition. One package contains approximately 400 calories for 12 cents. That's the cheapest caloric acquisition in modern commerce. A case of 48 packages costs $6. 19,000 calories. That's 10 days of survival minimum caloric intake, or trading power that exchanges for weapons, medicine, information, or loyalty. Here's the economic reality everyone misses. When collapse hits, caloric deficit kills faster than bullets. Your body requires energy to function, to think, to fight, to survive cold. Without calories, you die in 3 weeks, but you become useless in 1 week. Weak, confused, vulnerable. And people experiencing caloric desperation will trade anything for food. Anything. Family heirlooms, tools they need, information that could save them, weapons for their defense. Because starvation overrides logic. It's biological imperative that hijacks rational thought. And you, with 100 cases of ramen bought for $600, you hold power. Real power. The kind that determines who eats and who starves, who owes you and who can't threaten you. The multiplier applications of ramen extend beyond calories. Noodles can be cooked, eaten raw, ground into flour, or traded whole. The seasoning packets provide salt and flavor, tradable separately from noodles. The packaging is waterproof, useful for storage or tinder. And ramen is so culturally embedded that everyone recognizes its value immediately. No explanation needed. No convincing required. It's understood currency. Let's synthesize everything. Alcohol, super glue, candles, salt, foil, lighters, ramen. $70 total. And you now have medical capability, food preservation, cooking ability, fire starting, lighting, heating, wound closure, barter currency for every category of need. Most people spend $70 on one tactical knife. You've built a complete survival economy. When World War III infrastructure collapses, when it collapses, not if, you're not just surviving, you're thriving, you're banking, you're the person others come to. And that positioning, that strategic advantage, that's worth more than gold. No guarantees this prevents every catastrophe. No promises you'll stay comfortable. But you now know what 99% of people spending thousands on tactical gear don't know. Value isn't determined by price. It's determined by utility multiplied by scarcity. And these $7 store items become more scarce, more valuable, more powerful than any expensive equipment when systems fail. What's the one item you're stocking this week? Comment below. I read every response. Think I'm wrong about cheap lighters over ferro rods? Drop your argument. Best technical response gets pinned. Subscribe and hit that bell. The follow-up video covers how to organize this into a trading post system. If this saved you from wasting money on expensive prepper garbage, share it with one person who needs this reality check. Stay strategic. Stay prepared. Or stay a victim of expensive marketing. Your choice. One more thing. See that progress bar? 99% leave here. The 1% who stay learn the 8th item that's more valuable than all 7 combined. It's medication. Specifically antibiotic ointment. Triple antibiotic ointment at dollar stores costs $1 per tube. In collapse, infection kills more people than violence. Tooth infections become lethal. Small cuts become septic. And antibiotics become more valuable than gold because gold doesn't stop gangrene. Stock 50 tubes. 25 for trade. 25 for use. That's $50 that could save 50 lives, or buy 50 debts owed. Comment currency if you found this. Welcome to the prepared class.